The first of a two-part documentary now on BBC One, following an ex-spice to the far-flung corners of the earth in search of special people with incredible stories. In Geri's World Walkabout.
The last year and a half has been a time of great change for me. Singing, writing, working for the United Nations, my feet haven't touched the ground. It's been a fab time, but my life was turning into a merry-go-round of airports, cabs and faceless hotel rooms. It doesn't give a girl much time for reality. So I thought enough is enough. What's the point of travelling the world if I only see it behind tinted windows? So I decided that wherever I was, the United States, South America, Europe, Southeast Asia, or here in Britain, I was going to try and take time out to get a flavour of each country, meet some interesting young people, and I hope to learn something. I was going to go walkabout. Now I'm finally home again. I can catch my breath and look back at some of the amazing people I've met over the year. They've all coped with huge changes in their lives, and I've been trying to discover what makes them tick. Is it love, money, faith, or sheer desperation that drives them? People like Jessica. She lived on a huge disease-ridden rubbish tip in Manila, but refused to be beaten by her poor start in life. And the Brown kids. 5 musical geniuses in one family. Or Jorg, who was a neo-Nazi but now fights to stop the spread of fascism. And Reginaldo, a dancer from the slums of Rio who managed to win a scholarship to the Bolshoi Ballet. Last year, I was asked by the United Nations to be a Goodwill ambassador. My first assignment was in June, and they sent me to the Philippines. It's a great place to start. Everyone's young here. Over half the population, that's over 35 million, are under 20. I was shown some of the family planning initiatives the UN started. It's a country where families with 6 children are common. Not surprising when the head of the Catholic Church describes condoms as evil and fit only for animals.
A modern girl in a conservative country, Geri Halliwell has been brought here to encourage safe sex and greater family planning on the part of one of the most rapidly growing populations in the world.
I believe that everybody deserves to have control of their life, and that means having control over your fertility. That means being able to have protection against disease and unwanted pregnancies. That is everybody's fundamental right.
My journey truly began when I was introduced to one of the Philippines' best-loved public figures.
Wala pa akong contour sa jawline.
28-year-old Chris Aquino has always had money. She was born into one of the country's most high-profile political families. Every morning she hosts a live TV chat show, attracting millions of devoted viewers. So I decided to turn the tables and chat to her.
Ako ang in-interview ni Geri Halliwell. Kilala niyo siya bilang Ginger Spice.
Now, I'm just being devil's advocate here. I look at you compared to most people in the Philippines. You've got wealth, you've got youth, you know, attractive women, you've got a child, you know, you've got a successful career. How do you feel that you stay in touch with what's going on in the world? Because I know from my own experience, you can be contained, you know, you've got PAs, makeup art, everything, everyone's doing everything for you. I mean, round the corner, you've got massive poverty. How can you relate to that?
First of all, I do a lot of regular things, and I think that they see that. I go to the grocery. I do it myself, and I talk to everybody. And because of television, people really open up to me.
But if you think that Chris is simply a third world Oprah Winfrey, think again. Her life's been full of incredible dramatic twists and turns. When she was just 1.5, Chris's father, the prominent political leader Ninoy Aquino, was imprisoned by President Marcos. When she was 9, the whole family were exiled to Boston on the understanding Chris's father never came back. But when she was 13, her father felt he had no choice but to return to the Philippines to meet his destiny.
He said the worst thing that could happen to him would be to just, be run over by a Boston taxi cab and die a meaningless death.
On the flight back to Manila, Chris's father, now opposition leader in waiting, brushed off threats that had been made on his life.
I am taking some precaution. I have my bulletproof vest, hoping that would be some kind of a protection. But if they hit me in the head, there's nothing we can do there.
It was about 2 or 3 in the morning that we received a call from...
Yeah.
It was first from a Tokyo news agency asking if we had heard and if we could confirm that my father had already been shot.
As he stepped off the plane, he was shot dead. The alleged assassin was immediately killed by security men.
It's very numbing in the sense that you're so far away and it happens.
Yeah, you couldn't quite take it in.
Yes, it only really hit us when we got home and we saw him in his coffin.
How old were you then?
I was 12. And when we got there and they opened up the casket, it's a really, really weird feeling to kiss someone who's almost as stiff as wood. That's what I remember very much from that experience. And what amazed me also was that you have to remember at that time Marcos was still in power, but literally millions of Filipinos went out into the streets during my dad's funeral. If you saw the movie of Mahatma Gandhi, the scene is very similar to that.
You kind of feel proud almost that everybody...
In a way, it consoled us because I knew that, and my mom said, this is the way your dad would have wanted to die.
Yeah, his death had meaning.
Yes.
The truth about what really happened to her father will probably never be known. But the killing is widely believed to have been plotted by supporters of the then President Marcos.
I remember also that I would receive these letters. And to this day, every time I think of it, I really get touched because kids would enclose their allowance in the letters. One of them said that I asked my mom to give you the allowance I was supposed to receive for this month. And hopefully it would make me feel better. And that came from someone who
I would have much money themselves.
Yes, exactly.
3 years later, the Marcoses lost power to another Aquino, Chris's mother, Corey, who up until then had been content as a housewife.
The long agony is over. We are finally free, and we can be truly proud of the unprecedented way we achieved our freedom.
Incredibly, in spite of many attempts on both her and Chris's life, she remained president for 6 years.
From being a political prisoner's daughter to becoming an exile's daughter, to coming home, to being a martyr's daughter, I was now a presidential daughter.
Oh my God.
So the cycle of life is really weird. Our lives are so much a part of everybody's lives
Your
as
life
well.
has been like a soap opera, isn't it? For
Yes.
them, almost.
Can we just pray for a happy ending now?
I'm sure you'll have a happy ending.
Talking to Chris made me want to explore the other side of the Philippines. I knew there was poverty here, but wherever I went, I was gobsmacked by the appalling conditions that the poorest Filipinos had to put up with. But nothing prepared me for my visit to Payatas. Waste management, that's rubbish to you and me, is a terrible problem in the Philippines, causing disease and damaging the environment. And this dump site at Payatas has attracted an entire community of over 30,000 scavengers, all fighting over last week's rubbish just to survive.
You know, I've seen some poor countries, but I've never seen anything like this in my whole life. It's so frightening that this is what the world has come to, that people live on rubbish dumps. It just puts us all to shame, really, doesn't it? We just take everything for granted. Or up the road, you know, in the hotel we're staying at. You know, it's fine and, you know, full of luxury. It's got a gym with running machines. Oh, and that's the other thing that I cannot let you in on. But the smell is so intense, it's so dense and thick, you can hardly breathe through it. I just think they are here constantly. They don't know what fresh air is, and the flies, they're everywhere.
"19-year-old Jessica is one of the lucky ones. She's managed to escape from a life of scavenging and pay her way through school, but it hasn't been easy.
When I go to school, my classmate tease me, "Oh, your smells bad."
Really?
Yes.
How did you cope with that? How did it make you feel?
Sometimes I cried, but I try to ignore them because I don't want them to become the hindrances to not finish my studies, to stop studying.
Jessica used to scavenge through the night for bottles and pieces of metal, stopping just 1 hour before she was due at school. With 9 square miles of garbage, landslides are common, with rubbish often spontaneously combusting. The mountain is a dangerous place, and it's shocking to hear what some people throw away.
We saw a cat or in a bag, put in a bag. And then the other day we find a bag of fetuses.
I can't believe that.
You know what we do? I pretend to be a priest. Then we bury the.
Oh, that's so sad, isn't it? Someone would do that. How old were you when you found them?
I'm only 8.
Can I ask you, because I look in there, I've got a television in there. I mean, what did you do to escape?
I read.
You read a lot?
I used to read Peter Pan.
Peter Pan?
I always read fairy tales.
So you like escapism?
All over the mountain there are shacks where families live, and even snack bars where you can pick up a spot of lunch. It's a desperate form of recycling, I suppose, but there's got to be a better way.
What do you feel about the way life has treated you?
I'm not happy.
You're not happy?
Because sometimes when I was a scavenger, I saw children in a good family, they have a good dress. I feel envy. I ask myself, why
haven't you got those things?
Yes. That's also helped me to really to study.
It's encouraged you, it's driven you.
Yes.
Today, Jessica has managed to find a different sort of work. A charity discovered her talent for painting, and she now earns 30 pence for each t-shirt she designs.
A real big turning point as well is that you were picked out of thousands of children to represent a global march. Can you tell me about that? You tell me about it in your own words.
What is Global March?
Yeah, what is it? What are you fighting for?
We are fighting to eliminate child labor.
Right.
Yes, there I become spokesperson.
That's fantastic.
Yes, in ILO, United Nations, in Geneva, Switzerland.
Yeah, so you've had to go and give talks?
Yes.
Because you've met President Clinton, haven't you? So you're going around there to try and stop what happened to you. So what do you want for the future?
I want a simple life, peaceful life. I want to be an architect. I want to build my own house.
To build your own house?
Yeah, but concrete house, but simple.
A concrete house,
And
not
also-
on a rubbish tip. I really hope it comes true for you. You're gorgeous. Lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You know, I've only spent, an hour here, and I swear I feel physically sick with the stench. This is the 21st century, and part of our world is living on a rubbish tip. What is going on? I think Jessica is an example to us all through so much adversity, tiredness, poverty, filth. She's been so driven. That is triumph of the human spirit to say, you know what, I'm going to get out of this. And I just think that deserves so much admiration. It really does, and respect. I think we can only learn from people like Jessica. We really can.
At my next destination, I witnessed a completely different kind of childhood dedication, way off on the other side of the world. New York is a city I love. It's got such a great vibe full of interesting characters, and believe me, they don't come any more interesting than the Brown family. This house on the outskirts of New York plays host to some extraordinary siblings. Down in the basement there's 16-year-old Gregory. He's got huge hands and goes for the big romantic pieces. Upstairs in the lounge there's 17-year-old Deandra. She's a real extrovert. And then there's Desiree, who's a year older. She's the emotional one with the lyrical touch. And it doesn't stop there. Melody is 14 and has a fabulous technique. And let's not forget cute little Ryan playing Chopin on the top. He's a natural musical storyteller. 5 grand pianos and 5 grand talents.
Do you know who you look like? I don't know if you've got something to the camera, but you remind me of, do you know Prince Harry? Yeah, you do. I have a soft spot for him, it's very cute. Okay, brothers and sisters. Now, I was in one of 5, and we always fight, and there's always sibling rivalry. There always is. Of course, there's competition. So how is that, doing the exactly same thing? Because I don't know if I could cope with that.
Well, we don't feel competition towards each other.
Oh, come on.
I know. It's true.
When one wins, it's like the whole family wins, I guess.
Yeah, okay, that's true. I can understand you're all happy for each other. But, I don't want to be negative. But what about this then? What about if someone come along and said, right, okay, I want you, but I don't want any else for something, what would you do?
We'd be happy for them.
So it's not all, it's not just a group thing, it's... You would feel a slight little bit of jealousy. I would. I think, what about me?
Yeah, so we'll have a chance later.
Yeah, it hasn't come. I haven't seen any of it yet, so.
Amazingly, each of the 5 children have places at the Juilliard, one of the most prestigious music schools in the world.
The first time I saw the Brown kids, I said to myself, this can't be real. They just seemed too good together, too comfortable together, too close, too non-competitive. But I've known them now for a couple of years, and I have to say that the more I see them, the more real they seem.
And when these 5 prodigies get the chance to play together, the volume can practically blow the roof off. I was in New York to appear on the Rosie O'Donnell show, but I drove upstate to meet the 2 people who produced these amazing children. Key Keith and Lisa Brown took the decision to take their kids out of school and do it all themselves.
So Keith and Lisa, you must feel very proud of your 5 children. But what about actually taking them out of, like, the environment of other school kids?
We were worried about it
because I would be worried that
we were.
that interaction with other kids is important.
And if they were a single child, it would have been a bigger concern for us. But, I mean, they have a great time together.
Well, see, they're also close in age. The most there is 2 years between, I think, Gregory and Deandra, 2.5.
I'm not saying it'll work out for everybody, but for them it worked.
Do you think, because I know you're Mormons, okay, and I really don't know a lot about it, but do you think that's had a big influence on, the way you've brought up your children? Because I have to say, there aren't a lot of parents that, treat their children like that.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has the biggest emphasis on closeness in the family.
Right.
The father doesn't go out and just forget his kids.
What would you feel if one of them, I don't know, like Desiree suddenly, she just said, I'm not doing it anymore?
We've thought about that too.
Because you've put so much into it, I'd be gutted. So that's an English expression.
Yeah,
but, if she chose something else that she could do well, it would be fine.
Or like she said, I want to be a cleaner. Or I'm never going to bank. My mother would be going, I remember when I suddenly said, I'm not going to work in hotels, Mother, because I'd taken up travel and tourism. My mother went mental at me, completely.
Well, they're all plenty bright kids, and they can do whatever
they're doing. They're smart, I think, and they could do. Right now, they all see themselves, they kind of want to play this out and see what happens.
It's part of their being now.
Yeah. Okay, I have to ask you this question. It's not a test. I think, there is some sort of unity between spirituality and music, because music is so powerful. It kind of is you don't have to actually understand the words, it's just a feeling, and it gives you strength. It's empowering.
Sometimes the effect of spirituality and art are very, very similar.
Absolutely.
And so...
so you think they
they're
very,
very much. And I mean, sometimes when I'm, feeling depressed or I'm worried about something, I can just sit down and it's just an outlet for me to be able to express and to get out of myself for a little while, and then things become clear.
As you're playing?
Yeah, it helps a lot. And then you draw on that power when you're actually performing, because you try and get something across to the audience. You want to make them feel something too, along with what you're feeling. So
I understand that. Yeah, that's brilliant. I bunked off my music lesson and got caught, I have to say. And that is why I had one music lesson, piano, and one thing that I have not sometimes is dedication and concentration. And that's why I can only play this. And I've always said that whoever can play the top end of this will be my husband. Okay, so I think you might be able to do it. Let me find it. This is a masterpiece. Beethoven's Fifth. Can you do the top? One other thing. Never and that one. I do it at bars, restaurants, Oh, that's the other thing I was going to say to you is obviously your daughter's absolutely gorgeous, like you. And what are you going to do when you've got these boyfriends knocking at the door, bringing them home really late? Because you know what happens, don't you? The attention span goes absolutely.
But you know
when a girl falls in love, or any of one falls in love, I know when I write songs, my creativity goes out the window. Distracted. What do you do?
The worst part of that is when they're younger, in junior high and high school, and we made it through that time.
Yeah, well, that was...
And the music was a big help. The music was a huge help in that.
They were distracted from time to time.
Yeah.
I mean,
and do you become that, what time do you call this?
No, we have never given them a curfew
because
they've shown to be responsible. Why do you have to tell them what to do and when to do it if they have shown that they're responsible?
I'm taking notes because when I have a child, I'm saying, right.
It's a constant thing being a parent to try to think, now what can I do to discipline or to teach my child without,
You are like the Waltons for the 21st century.
Oh, no!
guess it's one thing for talent to be nurtured in a happy middle-class home in a wealthy country. But it must be so hard to shine through if you're born in the slums of Rio and all your energy is taken up simply finding enough to eat. While I was working in Rio, I was told that something wonderful was going on in the most unlikely of places.
Over half the population live below the poverty line. There are 700 of these shanty towns. I've come to this one to meet a remarkable boy with an amazing talent.
What I want to know is, in a nation of football fanatics, how did Reginaldo discover ballet?
Começou assim, aos 12 anos de idade, tinha uma
When I was 12 years old, I had this neighbor, a friend of mine. She was a ballet dancer.
Aqui perto tem centro que ajuda crianças que não têm condições.
And close by, there's a place where they teach ballet for children that cannot afford paying for lessons.
Oh, really?
Aí ela me levou.
So she took me there.
E foi assim, paixão à primeira vista, porque
and it was a first sight passion.
Eu não sabia que existia balé.
I didn't even know ballet existed.
What, and how did you, you just went along and you saw it and you fell in love with it?
Parece que é o destino, sabe? Eu não sabia,
It looked like destiny because it was so big and so powerful. I fell in love so quickly.
The incredible reward for Reginaldo's devotion is being the only boy in the world last year to win a scholarship to train with the Bolshoi Ballet.
I think it's only time that will take him to be a Baryshnikov in Uriev. It's just time because he has everything that these men had.
Living in Brazil's macho culture, Reginaldo's family, all unemployed, eventually came to terms with his unusual talent.
In Brazil, there's a big preconception about men dancing because people say, oh, that's women's stuff. But I think it's okay because I'm his brother and dancing's good for him, and we like that.
No início eles não davam assim muita força.
In the beginning they didn't like it. So they said you should try other things. I mean that's not for you.
I mean when I started what I was doing, my parents said to me, why don't you get a proper job? It was the same. Yeah.
Foi a mesma coisa que meus pais falaram.
It's the same thing that my parents told me.
Acho que a gente tem que acreditar no sonho, por mais difícil que ele seja.
We always have to believe in our dreams so that we can make them true.
Because I mean I look around you and you're very lucky. You're one of very few that have managed to come out from where you are and you have a very good opportunity, but not everybody has that. Do you think that is your own self-drive or do you think it was luck?
Acho que é o destino, sabe?
I think it's destiny. I think God writes it and what's written is there and that's what really happens.
Realmente eu não acredito porque eu nunca imaginei isso para minha vida, nunca mesmo.
Because I never imagined this for my life.
Right. On a more personal level, I mean, what do you hope for? Do you want a family or do you have a girlfriend or boyfriend or what do you want from the future?
O que você espera do futuro? Por exemplo, você quer casar, quer ter filhos? Como é que é essa história para você?
Quero se casar, sabe?
The whole thing.
Construir uma família, ter filho, de preferência homem.
A family, a child.
Mas não agora, assim, mas.
But not now.
But not now.
Agora
You've got too much to do.
Namorar, sair.
Now I just want to date and go out.
Yeah. Be young. Should we do some ballet? Should we do a plie? Tell him to do. Let's do a plie. That's all I know. I think what amazed me so much about Reginaldo that he really truly believed in destiny. Most of these kids will never see past this little village and let alone go to Russia. So that really proves that anything is possible in life. Think I'll make it? Think it's too late for me?
Back at home, it's hard to imagine a greater contrast from the sun-drenched slums of Rio to the beautiful valleys of Pembrokeshire. One wet Welsh September day, I had lunch with a group of people who live their lives according to a strict set of eco-principles, and they seemed to think we'd all be happier that way. It sometimes seems to me that the human spirit thrives in a tough environment. So back home, I was interested to visit these 20 or so well-educated individuals, so fed up with the stress factor in modern living, they opted for hardship as a way of life.
So, what are you eating?
Well, this is homemade bread. It's brand new. Tomatoes, cucumbers, carrots. It's very, very simple.
And it's all homegrown.
Have some of these tomatoes because they're really sweet. The little ones especially.
People forget what a real tomato tastes like. The difference is amazing.
They've chosen to reject the creature comforts we all take for granted. There's no fridge or washing machine, and what heating there is has to come from collected and chopped firewood. One of the few concessions to the 21st century is a humble 12-volt electrical circuit powered by the wind and sun.
It's not particularly bright, but it comes off the windmill and off the water turbine, so they all go into these batteries.
Oh, so it's all, you know, solar powered.
Yeah.
Wow. So you don't get any electricity bills?
It's
19p last quarter, I think.
19p?
Yeah, we are actually on
19 pence?
That's right, yeah. It's good now.
Mine was about £1,900.
Yeah.
That was brilliant. And what do you feel about the outside world, though?
Well, we never go near it.
I was wondering if you know me when I came. So you know that I left the Spice Girls?
Yeah, it's a tragedy.
We're really upset.
Congratulations.
Well, I was really shocked, you know, when you left, and then gradually we came to terms with it, and we realised that you were going to be an ambassador for the round, and everything was going to be cool.
It was touch and go, you still worried?
Yeah.
Me too.
Running down the road in the middle of the light. Light don't mean it's gonna be alright. Running down the road in the middle of the light. Saying myself it's gonna be here.
The community was originally set up by Emma, Martha's mum.
So what exactly do you believe in? What's the manifesto behind this whole thing?
I believe that as a species we need to choose simplicity. It's to do with quality of life instead of quantity, I suppose. I think there's enough for everybody in this world if most of us don't take too much.
Yeah, they say there is enough food to go around the world 4 times over. There is no need for starvation.
Yeah, I'm sure that's right.
You know, it is a different way of life, and most people, you know, will find it, you know, hard to digest. I mean, why do you choose to live like this?
Well, it's out of respect for the environment.
Yeah.
A desire to be live closer to the land, I guess.
Yeah.
And to be more a part of the environment and to not be so separate, I guess. Yeah, be a species among many, I think.
What do you mean, a species among many?
It's like you live, instead of just doing what you want to do, you respect the fact that there is all these different things that are living on the planet at the same time, and you respect
not
what
just
they're
human
doing.
beings.
Yeah.
Hi. Hi.
Who might be horse
Dominic.
Oh, Harry's been frightened. What is it? What is it called?
Martha showed me their rather unusual sanitary arrangements.
Hang on, so where is the flush?
You have no flush. What you do is you put in things like sawdust, nettles, other things like that which stop it being really horrible and disgusting.
What I really liked was this magical eco house, hidden down at the bottom of a field, built by Tony, one of Martha's parents' closest friends.
He built it himself?
Yeah, it's quite good fun actually. It's wood, grass, a few bits of stone.
Hello, hi. Oh my God! This is amazing. Hang on, so the structure of it is made out of wood?
Well, yeah, wood. So all the poles rest on the other poles. You start off
How much
with
did it
one.
cost you to make?
The whole thing?
Yeah.
2,500.
Oh my God.
It's quite cheap, isn't it? That's probably why they want us to pull it down. It's a threat to the whole housing business.
Who wants you to put it down?
Planners want us to put it down.
Why do they want you to put it down?
Well, because they don't have rules for funky houses in the countryside, really.
But it's not really an eyesore, is it? It really blends in.
No, I mean, they could, I think they could, enlarged their rules a bit to take account of low impact housing.
Yeah, it's hardly a concrete housing estate, is it?
No, there's no cement in it or concrete,
Yeah.
in fact. Yeah, it's meant to sort of rot away after about 30 years, in fact.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's the
So
idea.
it is an eco house, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, it is, yeah.
Tony realised many years ago that the 9-to-5 job, working for the council, wasn't right for him.
A lot of people will be dying to know, do you feel better, you know, emotionally, spiritually living here?
Yes, because it's natural. It's natural. I mean, out there I can watch just the birds and listen to the rain and stuff like that. Being in nature is what we've done for thousands of years.
And you've got
And
the
it's-
space here as well, that's
Yeah,
the other thing. You can just walk outside and there's nothing but...
In your bare feet?
Yeah.
Well, she does, actually, don't you?
The answer to life is simplicity.
Well,
keep it simple.
Yeah, it's
most
there
of
is
us
a lot in it.
complicate our lives.
Yeah,
to
that's right.
distractions.
That's right. I'm worried about your life, quite honestly. Yeah,
Are you?
Yeah, I worry about it a lot.
Do you
Thinking
think I
like
should come and
Geri's
live?
like she's too busy, man. It's
Yeah.
just- yeah. Here's our visitor's book, or our guest stars sign it.
Geri Halliwell was here
Did she like it
at
at all?
the end of the century.
Did she like
She
it
loved
at all?
it.
Right,
I
I
love it. Yeah. And if it all goes wrong, can you spare me a room?
Right, yeah, go on.
A few months back, I was working in a city that's probably been through more dramatic changes than any other this century, and since the fall of communism, it's facing up to its biggest challenge yet. Willkommen in Berlin. It's now 10 years since the Berlin Wall came down. Well, most of it anyway. The initial euphoria of knocking things down seems to have been replaced, big time, by building things up. It's like one giant construction site, as the old East Berlin tries desperately to catch up on 3 lost decades of Western decadence. Although unification has its own set of problems, it's a place I felt that was full of hope for the future. One young man, raised in East Germany, who's definitely cashed in on the new opportunities, is Mark Wollraab. Over the last 5 years, he's created a multi-million-pound empire. I was here for a German TV show, and time is limited. So I figured Mark was the perfect guide for a tour of New Berlin.
This was the eastern part again, and if we drive through the gate, we will be immediately after 20 meters in the western part. In this November 1989, it was a great feeling when I was 17, when all these thousands of people could jump on the east side and walk to the gate. So, still east, but here was the wall, and where the trees are, there was west part.
Oh, look, it's the Berlin.
Oh, yeah.
This is what's left.
It's vanishing a little bit, but this is gives you an impression how the wall was.
I've been reading lots of books about Germany in the war and going through the time of, you know, the Nazis and someone living through a concentration camp. And what dawned on me and what somebody said was the generation after the war, they were left with guilt. But, you know, you're the youth of today. What do you think about it?
I think, but I was not born, so I could do nothing against it or for it.
Yeah.
So I have no feel of guilt, but I have the emotion to learn out of the history that never things can happen like this again.
An increasing number of young Germans, particularly in the former East Germany, don't share Mark's desire to learn from history. For them, the hardship of their early years hasn't bred hope, it's bred hatred. The last 10 years have seen an alarming revival of Nazism, and during recent elections, one fascist party got 17% of the vote.
I mean, do you have opinion on the neo-Nazi groups that are up and coming, which is, you know, it's very surprising.
I think in that you have to see back on what history has done in the last 50 years and how we have still a lot of economical problems in the east side. And if you live in poorness, it's often a very easy way to show another people and say, it's not my problem, it's they make my problem.
Turn that negativity onto somebody else, blame it on somebody else. So you think a lot of those kind of racism and hatred to other people is because of economic problems?
There's a lot of basis in that, A lot of, and a bad way of education.
To discover more about how ordinary human beings can be swept up in a vicious tide of hatred, I decided to travel 40 miles north of Berlin to visit Sachsenhausen, one of the Third Reich's concentration camps and a monument to one of the most repulsive regimes in modern history. It's a desolate, chilling space, and the museum here leaves you in no doubt about the horrors that must have taken place less than 60 years ago. No matter how much I thought I knew about the Holocaust, I was appalled by the reality of this place. Most upsetting of all are the ovens where the bodies were burnt. I am now standing in a concentration camp, and this is where they used to incinerate the bodies. I think we've all felt hatred in our lives, sometimes to ourselves and other people, but sometimes you just can't understand it. I can't understand this. I'm about to meet a man who was part of a very hateful movement. Let's go meet him. Jörg used to be a leading light in the NPD, one of the new wave German neo-Nazi parties. A sickly child, he was an outcast at school. So when he was asked to join what seemed on the surface to be a friendly youth club, he leapt at it. Do you think you were quite vulnerable at the time? You know, that's why you wanted to join such a movement?
In the beginning, they gave the newcomers, me in this case, a very strong feeling of community, comradeship, appreciation and challenge. They make you feel at home. The reason for this is that it's easier to accept things from your friends.
I mean, some of the ideology of the Nazis is to hate Jews. Germans are the superior race. Did you not think that that's not right?
They gave you the feeling, and I thought it too, that you were something special, not only because you were German, but because you were superior within the German people, who were already superior anyway. The elite of the elite.
I know you said you didn't have a lot of friends, but how could you join a party whose beliefs were responsible for the deaths of millions of people?
There are two things I'd like to mention here. One, nobody really tells you that Hitler is supposed to be your idol. And second, they deny the Holocaust.
Right, so they say that the Holocaust didn't happen, it was a conspiracy.
They claim it's a lie, and they're trying very hard to prove it didn't happen in a pseudo-scientific sort of way, using documents and statements by witnesses who were former SS officials. They say it's a Jewish conspiracy, and of course you want to believe them. And furthermore, it fits into this theory that the media of this world is conspiring against Germany.
Ease everyone's conscience.
you eventually turned your back on it. What brought that on?
Da hat es zwei Gründe gegeben, also so Fragen, Zweifel.
There were two reasons for that. I've always had many questions and doubts, and they kept coming back.
Und das Zweite war,
And the second was that I'm gay, and because of that, I epitomise something the Nazis are fighting against.
Nazis bin.
Do you think you would have left the party if you weren't gay?
Das ist eine sehr hypothetische Frage. Ich denke.
It's a very hypothetical question, but I think yes. However, I think it sped up my decision to leave. Otherwise, it might have taken a little bit longer.
York has now left the party and writes and speaks out against fascism at considerable risk to his own personal safety.
So do you feel afraid for your own life? I mean, appearing on television, do you feel afraid? Ja.
Oder weil du im Fernsehen auch. Gut, was heißt Angst? Nur,
What is fear? Certainly I have precautionary measures, which means I don't leave the house without my defences.
Auch, dass ich nicht ganz wehrlos rumlaufe.
What's that then?
So Tränengas.
Isn't that illegal?
Pistole.
CS gas, that is illegal, isn't it?
Nein, also man darf hier in Deutschland so ein
You're allowed to in Deutschland.
Tränengas.
You can't. So, what do you believe now?
An was ich glaube? Ich glaube an.
What do I believe in? I believe that everybody should have the opportunity to do what they want and be what they want to be.
Everyone is equal. So now you feel that.
Ja.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Danke. I find it quite unbelievable after 50 years, with all the evidence standing here in a concentration camp, that the neo-Nazi party still exists. I think it's up to us as individuals, with our own sense of morality and respect for human beings, to make sure that this never happens again. If someone like York can turn his life around, it gives me real hope for all our futures. But I know there's more I need to understand about the human spirit. So on the second part of my world walkabout, I'll be meeting another bunch of remarkable people, like Padre Zeka, the rock and roll priest from Rio with a twinkle in his eye. Zena, a British Muslim on the run from a family that's threatening to murder her, and Annette and Sven, whose love affair has survived 4 years travelling around the world, cooped up in a tiny sailing boat. So it's sex, love, death, God and rock and roll. I'm the freak here. I'm just happy bouncing here like Zebedee. So you feel hopeful about our future?
Tenho.
Yes, you do. You're optimistic.
Todos os seres humanos são bons.
Oh, thank God for that.
Thanks a lot.
BBC One Around the World with Geri.
Berkshire, England. What a crazy year it's been for me. But at least I've had the chance to meet some fascinating young people around the world to see what I can learn about love, happiness, faith, and some of life's other big questions. So join me as I go for some more walkabout. This week, you'll come with me to Brazil to meet Pedro, who at the age of 6 joined Rio's army of kids living rough on the streets. and to the Philippines to visit Sarah, who learned to sing in a jail with a death sentence hanging over her head. And we'll meet Michelle, a 19-year-old New Yorker who was shot in the head as she queued up at her own school gates. Some of the most extraordinary people I've come across have been closer to home. Last summer, I was invited to spend the day with the Royal Artillery on Salisbury Plain.
By the left, double, march! Left, right, left, right, left, right, left! Right, get into quick time! Quick march! Left, right,
Emma is the first British woman to be trained to fight on the front line. She's 29 and a captain and troop commander in charge of a tank. She is the only woman among 180 men.
Stand by, go! Come on then, let's go! Straight up there, team, straight back, take such the next person!
I feel like Private Benjamin. Good morning. Hi. God, they're really fast. Thank you. Are you alright? Okay? Yes, I'm fine. I do yoga. I'm really fit. And so how long do you run for?
Probably around 45 minutes an hour if you're doing a...
45 minutes? I'm gonna make it.
Okay, hold it there!
Oh, I have to say, that is exhausting, and I don't know how they keep it up. Wow. Oh, thank you. That's all I need, son, to carry my bags. So, Emma, what made you want to join the army?
The ultimate question.
For me, this is probably the most scariest position to be in the army. This is the front line. You've got to have balls of steel, haven't you? So what do you think has made you want to do that?
I mean, initially I joined the army because I probably have a streak in me that says I want a challenge. I want to do something adventurous. I want to work as a team. I want to work with people, closely with people. And I think I probably have an element of me that says I like to, be in a position where I'm responsible and you can.
Because you are a Leo like me.
I'm a Leo.
You like to feel in control and relatively bossy.
I like to boss people around.
So you've got a great position for you.
Squad will advance. Left, turn.
I haven't got it.
Eyes, front. Standard, ease. Stand easy. Look in.
It's like a dance routine. And the other thing that really interests me is, do you feel patriotic?
Very patriotic, yes.
Do you?
Yes,
do you think you need to feel patriotic to be in the army?
I think there has to be an element of that because ultimately what they're going to be asked to do is to fight for their country. So there's a very strong feeling of that.
I mean, I'm a bit of an old hippie, so I believe in peace and love. Let's all just try and be one nation. But I do have a sense of my own country, and I'm very patriotic.
Proud to be British.
Yeah, I am very proud to be British to a degree, although I'm a cocktail of all things in me. But at the end of the day, you are going to have to pull a trigger. You haven't done it yet, have you?
No.
Do you think about that? You're going to be in a position where you can choose to kill or not to kill.
Yes.
But
if you were put in that situation, whether it was your life or their life, I think you'd know instinctively which one was the correct move to do. I mean, it's self-protection and self-preservation. So with your training, obviously, in the army, then that's when you find yourself able to do things that maybe you wouldn't think otherwise you could do.
How do you feel about, family and, your future? Do you want to have babies one day?
Yes, I'd like to have babies one day. I'd like to have family one day.
Really?
Yes.
But do you think, imagine if you had a baby and you went back to work and you went to the front line. Now, I would think, I wouldn't want to do that because now I am a mother to children. I have a responsibility to them. And then I would think my employees would think, I'm not sure if I'm going to take that officer quite as seriously now she is a mother, because she's not going to be as committed to the job. I mean, what do you think? So
I think that's a very personal choice, and some women are able to do it and some women aren't. I mean, I do have children, so I haven't addressed that one myself, but if anything comes into question that, i.e. if I came in and said I'm not happy about going to Bosnia because I've got my children at home, then that's when you have to reassess what you're doing in the army because you're not carrying out your job correctly.
There seems to be a real feeling of camaraderie and unity, which is part of the appeal is, the feeling of part of a group.
You work as a team, you work in a very close team. And
it's really nice though to feel that. I can feel it, the vibe. I think all of you, it's just a real sense of togetherness.
Well, I think because if you work with each other in such close surroundings and extreme conditions sometimes where, when you've had no sleep, you're out and, you could be out and exercise and you've been out there for 36 hours. And I know that Bomlaw's tired, he knows that I'm tired. You see people, go through different phases of their sort of of their character because people react differently under different situations.
And my day wouldn't have been complete without seeing Emma in action.
Okay, let's go get him. Just don't mess with me.
Let's go, we're going.
Are you going to drive it a little bit?
Yes, we're going to drive out in the rain.
Oh my God! Do you know what I love? They call her Mom. I quite liked it though. Oh, do you know what? Would you mind having a picture with me?
Okay, say cheese.
Cheese!
I'm sure male chauvinism still exists in the army, but I could see that Emma had succeeded in winning the respect and loyalty of her male colleagues.
Thanks so much.
Just do that for me, okay?
You are living proof that, equality and its woman power truly does exist. I'm so proud of you. Great.
Next stop, Rio, one of the most exotic and glamorous cities in the world, at least on the surface. I was here to kick off an 8-day whistle-stop world tour to promote my first solo single. There's a huge divide between rich and poor in Rio. And it's also a very violent city. A detailed United Nations study discovered that 36% of deaths among 15 to 17-year-olds are due to police violence. It seems that underneath the seductive surface is a city with a hell of a lot of problems. So I made sure that during my short time here, I would try and see beyond the traditional tourist traps. So for starters, I went to talk to the country's most unlikely new pop star.
For young Brazilians, religion is the new rock and roll. I'm going to meet the man behind the music. You won't find him behind a pulpit, more likely on a beach with lots of young people signing his new chart-topping CD.
Venha viver uma grande emoção e sentir no peito uma explosão.
Padre Zeca was raised a typical middle-class Catholic, but at 13 he rebelled, claiming church was too boring. Today, after 7 years of hard study, he's a celebrity padre with a deal at EMI and a church that's bursting at the seams.
Deus é 10. That's it.
Ah, that's so good. Oh, you've got all the charisma and proper rock and roll. What's most inspiring about you is that actually you've come from a very different place from, a padre. Tell us a little bit about, what you were like as a teenager, and don't be shy about it.
I really love sports, and I used to surf, and I've had also girlfriends.
Yes, a lot of girlfriends? I mean, most teenage boys have lots of girlfriends. That's okay.
Yeah, a lot of relationships with girls and so.
Yeah.
And some light contacts with drugs also.
Oh, really?
Just light.
So you're being a rebellious teenager?
Yes. And my relationship with God was, I prayed only when I was in trouble.
Oh yeah, we all do that though, don't we? We all pick up the telephone when we want something.
Padre Zeca wants to bring hope to the younger generation, trapped in an ever-increasing spiral of poverty. He's dead set on giving religion a complete makeover. His youthful congregation rocks the church to its foundations with his Rocky Horror-style services. Everyone seems to have a great time.
You're living almost a double life. On one hand, you're padre. On the other hand, you've got an image of being, you're selling records.
Jesus, he says in parabolas, how to say that?
Parables.
Parables.
Right.
In our times, we have to speak and to use the communication, television, radio, CDs.
Yeah.
To
you're just tapping into
that's
that.
it.
Like most pop stars, Zeka's fan club is full of pretty young girls.
The average person would be thinking, okay, at the end of the day, you are a man, okay, and nobody is perfect. And obviously, you have all those primal instincts, and it's very commendable that you've given up sex, for religion. But how do you still do those natural things that men do that they don't do with a woman? Are you allowed to do that or not? Or
No.
is that too personal?
All my sexuality, I consecrate from my service.
You channel it into...
Yeah, everything.
Wow.
Everything.
What about other slightly controversial issues? For example, contraception.
Yes.
We are in a world where AIDS is absolutely rife, and there are a mass of teenage pregnancies. I mean, how do you, relate to a young teenage girl who is asking you for advice? We know what Catholics believe.
Yes.
But what we say and what we do are two different things.
Yes.
I mean, how do you deal with that?
It's really difficult to me to explain that in Portuguese and in English.
Is it?
It's much more difficult.
That's an easy way out, isn't it? God.
But anyway.
I wish I could do that when I'm being interviewed.
The Catholic stance on contraception is confusing at the best of times, and the girl I'm about to meet could certainly have done with some straight talking when she was a teenager. Instead, she's living with the tragic consequences.
As you can see, I am a normal person, or at least that's the way I would like to be seen. And I'm sure everybody would see me like this if it wasn't for a little detail. I am HIV positive.
Valeria has every reason to feel shortchanged by life. She lost her virginity and became HIV positive all in one night when she was only 16. But the book she has since written about becoming infected and then living with AIDS has become a bestseller in a country that still struggles to accept that promiscuity is rife among its young people.
Your ex-boyfriend, weren't you furious? Didn't you want to kill him?
No. I didn't even went to talk to him when I found out, because I think this AIDS has a lot to do with responsibility. Right. And people who have AIDS, who contract AIDS, they have to take this responsibility.
Do you think, did he know he had AIDS?
I don't know. Yeah. I had sex without condom, so I can't just go for somebody and say, what have you done? I did this as well.
Personally, how do you deal with relationship? Do you have a relationship?
Yeah.
You do?
I have now. For many years it was kind of difficult to deal with this, especially being a teenager. You never know what time should I tell the boy that I have AIDS,
Yeah.
And for many years it was really kind of difficult. But then I decided, if I met somebody and I think he's interested in me and I am in him, I'm just gonna say I have AIDS. If he likes, he likes. If he not, I'm sorry. And
so you tell him pretty much straight away?
Straight away.
Really? And how do they deal with that?
I don't know, I just say, look, I have AIDS, and some people, they get shocked and they said, I'm sorry, but I have to leave. Some other people say, look, I'm gonna be your best friend, but I can't date you. And like this boyfriend I have, he said, I never had a girlfriend with AIDS, but I wanna try with you.
You have a full sexual relationship with him?
Yeah.
And does that not cross the back of your mind? Obviously, you must use a condom now.
Sure.
But does that not cross the back of your mind or his mind when you're having sex? Because a condom is not guaranteed at the end of the day. Does that not worry you at all?
No, because what we have very clear between us is that he don't do anything less or more with me that he wouldn't do with anybody else.
Right.
The cares that he take with me, he should take with everybody. For sure, he's afraid of the virus, but he's not afraid of me. And this is very important in a relationship with HIV positive,
I've never met a person with AIDS before. I had that preconception that, they would have no life, no spirit, be negative. God, I'm completely dumbstruck by, her attitude. I don't know if I could be that positive. That was really moving, meeting her.
There are 30,000 street children in Rio, sleeping rough and scraping a living any way they can. Disease, drugs, sexual abuse and police violence all play a part in this human tragedy. Things came to a head in 1993 when 8 children were gunned down by police for daring to stray into wealthy Candelaria. A cross has since been erected in their memory. Fabiana and Pedro lived on the streets at the time of the massacre. It was a turning point for them both. They realised it could so easily have been them.
What about you, Pedro? I mean, why did you leave home in the first place?
Eu saí de casa já quando era a primeira vez, foi com 6 anos de idade.
He says he was 6 when he first left home because there was a lot of hunger and misery and violence where he lived, and he did not like living there. And he thought that on the streets he would be free and have a better life. He wouldn't suffer.
And what did he find? Did he find it was better?
Não, hoje eu compreendo que não foi melhor. Acho que
He says today he does not think it was a good idea, but at the time he was desperate. He did not know what he was finding. Today he evaluates that it wasn't good for him, that he spoiled a big period of his life.
Yeah. I think when you're younger you have these big ideas that the grass is always greener on the other side. You always think it's better somewhere else.
Lugares serão sempre
I ran away
melhores.
from my mother, you know, the same when I was a little bit older though.
Fabiana ran away at the age of 10 to escape an alcoholic mother and stepfather who sexually abused her. On the street, she fell into child prostitution and relied on drugs to escape reality.
Na rua é muito difícil porque você tem que
in the streets it's very difficult because we either have to steal or to beg, and you have to do lots of things you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Fabiana now lives in a home along with others rescued from the street. As well as caring for the younger children, she's studying to become a teacher and wants to help break the chain of generation after generation of street kids in Brazil. While we were filming, she was disappointed to stumble across 2 girls she used to know, still sniffing glue from cans, the cheapest form of drugs on the street.
Fala alto. Cate que eu quis. Tem que largar isso, jogar fora.
Sempre pode tentar de novo, hein?
The reality is the average street kid doesn't live to see their 19th birthday.
And now, as you look to the future, what is happiness? Money, love?
Eu espero que muitas coisas mudem assim para mim, para ele, e que
Oh, don't cry. It's all right.
Tá tudo bem.
You're a very brave lady, tell her. It's all right to cry.
Uma moça muito forte, tem todo o direito de chorar.
Tell her, you know, she's been through so much pain. A lot of people would have crumbled, you know, would have been destroyed by now. Look, she's still looking beautiful, looking healthy.
Pela droga, teriam desistido de viver. Mas você tá bonita, tá forte, e você deve se orgulhar disso.
You have a bright future, you do. Because you've seen things that other people wouldn't have seen your age. It's made you more mature.
Você já tem experiência.
There's a little girl in there. Now you mustn't forget her, I suppose.
Mas que você ainda no fundo é uma pequena menina ainda.
This lady said to me once, when I was feeling very down, everyone thinks I should be the strong person. She says, what you've got to do is be strong on the outside, then get your little girl and just put her in your heart and just keep her safe there. And now and again, just go, you've got to be your own, you know, strong person.
My dream is to write a book about my life and help all the kids get out of the streets.
Fantastic. And you, Fabienne?
I want a Brazil with no kids on the streets.
You have the power of the younger generation.
Fabiana still has a long way to go to come to terms with her neglected childhood. But probably the most alarming experience I had on my journey was told to me in a completely different part of the world. In June, I flew to Southeast Asia and visited the Philippines as the guest of the United Nations Population Fund. While I was there, I travelled to meet a woman who's become an unlikely national heroine. But first, I had to get through the traffic.
Right, now he's getting road rage. It's all over the front page. Give me road rage.
There's a huge American influence everywhere you go. A hangover from the Second World War when the country played host to the US Army. The military even left behind thousands of jeeps for the locals.
And the ingenuity of the Philippines have turned them into buses. And it's the only way to travel.
I'd arranged to meet Sarah Balabagan at a women's prison, where she was singing for the inmates.
And we are very happy that we are here in Correctional Institution for Women.
Sarah's no stranger to prison life.
Do you know Sarah Balabagan? Yes! You know, Sarah has experienced a lot of pains like everyone else here, like me. And the moment we sing from the heart, it certainly hits the heart. Yes or no? Yes! Ladies and gentlemen, Sarah Balabagan.
Her story started 10 years ago, when, like thousands of other Filipinos, she was sent abroad to work as a domestic help.
Ako'y ng ibang bansa, sangat kong makatulong sa aking pamilya. Subalit di ko akalaing mapapad sa rihas ng sa loob ng kulungan ay aking napagmasdan sari-saring problema ng ating mga kababayan. Kahirap talaga ang buhay.
Sarah travelled to the United Arab Emirates to cook and clean for a family of 8, until it all went tragically wrong. One night she was left alone with her employer. He was 58 and she was only 15.
And then tapos, nung pumasok ako sa kwarto, hindi ko alam na sumunod siya sa akin.
I had gone in the room to answer the phone. And then I didn't know that he had followed me. And then I heard the door close and I turned around. I was startled. I turned around and I saw him. And then he had embraced me and there was a knife.
So he threatened you with a knife?
After niya matanggal, nakayakap siya sa akin, yung kutsilyo na sa likod ko.
While the knife was to my back, he had removed my underwear. And he had pushed me down on the bed. And he was about to try and rape me. So I had no choice but to defend myself.
Pinipilit pa rin niya akong maano.
The first time I stabbed him, his choke became tighter. His grip on my throat became tighter. And then I just kept on stabbing and stabbing him.
Ugali ng pulis ay di mo maintindihan. Parang hayop kung kami ituring sa pitan. Buhay kulungan.
After a year in jail, Sarah was tried for murder and sentenced to death by firing squad.
How did it feel to know that you were going to get the death penalty?
Siyempre, parang gusto kong
I really felt like crying, but I was trying so hard not to cry because I didn't want my friends in prison to pity me more, but I couldn't help myself. I just cried and cried.
Pero hindi ko mapigil yung mga...
And I thought of my family, that the very reason why I went away to another country was to help them out. And now how could I help them? And to add to that, what I got was a death sentence.
Yun yung nakuha ko.
Awful. But then there was a twist in the story, wasn't there? I mean, you're free now. How did that happen?
Nakalaya ko dahil maraming sumulong sa akin, hindi lang
I got a lot of support, not only from my country, but from the whole world, especially France. They've helped me and asked for my release. And I think what really freed me was that the children of my employer had forgiven me.
When you were finally released from prison, tell me how that was, because you got whipped, didn't you?
Nung napalo ako, 100 lashes yun. Bali, 5 days yung ginawa, 20 a day.
I was lashed 100 times for 5 days. They had broken it into 20 lashes a day. And while I was being lashed, I never cried because I wanted to show them that it was for self-defense and that I was not guilty for what I had done.
Talagang yung ginawa ko self-defense lang at hindi ako nagsisisi. Sa pagsubo ng kanin sabay patak ng luha. Buhay sa ating bansa.
Hundreds of people lined the streets to greet Sarah when she returned. This was a turning point, knowing there were people out there supporting her. Some of the inmates here are themselves on death row.
So what do you pray for the future?
Siyempre, sana magbago yung tatay ko. And then...
Oh, don't be upset. Oh, don't cry, please. Through the worst of it. You're right. And most women would be very proud of you. You stood up for, you know, what you believed in. Tell her that.
Dahil pinanindigan mo kung ano daw yung mga paniniwala mo.
But it is good to let it out.
Pero okay lang daw, umiyak ka daw para malabas mo yung nararamdaman mo.
So come on, tell me about your singing. What singer do you like? Madonna? Geri?
Of course.
So you've got a new album coming out. Yeah.
Album na lang.
You should feel excited. It's great.
Parang hayop kung kami turing sa bitan.
I admire her for her courage that she showed by defending herself. But you could just see in her eyes that she has got so much pain withheld from trying to be strong. She had so many tears that she needed to cry. And obviously she hasn't done that yet. I just felt really sad for her. I really liked her.
After meeting Sarah, I thought at least here in Britain, no one has to face the death penalty. That is, until I was introduced to a young woman, born a British citizen, who has had a death sentence hanging over her head for the last 7 years. Jack and Zena are on the run, and only agreed to meet me if their identities were concealed and the location kept secret. Zena's family is Muslim and expected her to accept the husband they chose. But Zena had fallen in love with Jack, and to be with him, she knew that they would have to run away together, whatever the consequences.
What happened was, on early hours of the morning, I had to creep down and climb out of the kitchen window and head down towards where Jack was stopping.
Wow, how many years ago was that?
It'd be 7 years.
7 years you've been on the run. My goodness. And this is when the serious death threats started happening?
Yeah, on the very first night we managed to find a B&B, and I made an initial phone call just to let Zena's family know basically that she was safe and that she was well, and our intentions were to get married. And the older brother came on the phone and immediately said, "You're walking corpses, you're dead. When we find you, you're going to be in several bin liners. I'm going to hire a bounty hunter." You know, it was just, there was no talking, there was no, well look, you know, let's try and talk about this.
It's very hard for the average person to believe that one's own family would generally go out and murder them. You know, that's the one place you think no matter what happens outside, you have a sanctuary within your own home, and your parents will love you. Whatever you do, you can go home and they'll love you for it and accept it in the end. You know, so this is so hard to understand.
I understand that, but I think what we're dealing with here is we're dealing with a young man, an honest, hard-working, religious man who came to this country and worked very hard, brought up a fantastic family, but also brought with him traditions and customs that was then he tried to enforce upon his children, and you just
real
cannot do that.
Fundamentalist, extreme beliefs.
Yeah, I think Islam's, in its, like any religion, in its true context, is beautiful. It's when people.
Absolutely. I'm not judging the religion at all.
I'm not just talking about Islam. I'm talking about Catholicism, Christianity. I think it's when religion gets taken out of context that it becomes a problem. And for many people, they take it for how they want to believe it.
Does it say anything in the Quran about having mixed race relationships? Does it dictate that you must have an arranged marriage?
No, it doesn't. I mean, it basically says that a man and woman should be asked equally who they want to marry. I didn't have that choice.
So you were on the run, you had nowhere to go, you've overnight lost your family, up and left everything, and also, you know, Jack and Zena is not Jack and Zena, really, you've lost your identity. This must have been so hard. How did you feel?
It's been extremely difficult because it hasn't really just affected ourselves. Late one night when about midnight they knew that my mother was living on her own, and 3 guys went down to my mother's house, smashed the windows, kicked open the door and introduced the man who was going to murder her son. My sister has had endless phone calls, not just threatening herself but her children.
The only way we can describe being on the run is like sheer hell. You can't describe the pain, the anguish. We've had to move 22 times in 6.5 years.
So you are living in constant fear?
Yeah.
But, I mean, you've made a massive decision that's changed your life, basically for love.
Yeah.
And all you've got, basically, is each other. And that must be a massive pressure and strain on the pair of you, really.
Well, it does. I think the only way to describe it is that we've gone through a 50-year relationship, narrowed it down into 7 years.
I mean most of our days are like Groundhog Day. That's the only way to describe them.
Obviously, your religion and your love is taking you through so much. I mean, do you still respect your religion?
I do. Oh, it's been a great strength to me. I mean, I've still got the Quran.
Yes.
My faith, my religion has always been strong. I can't blame that because that's not to blame. It's the values and the tradition of my parents.
Yeah. Do you still love your parents?
I don't think that can never go away. 21 years of your life, these have been a part of you.
Yeah.
But you can't get rid of that anger and hate.
How could they do this to you?
Yeah, knowing that they're going to go to a warm bed on a night.
Yeah.
And we don't know where we were going to be from A to B. At the end of the day, they've hunted us like animals.
Yeah. And that's what you feel like, a hunted animal.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that's kept us strong is our communication between the two of us, our love. And I think it's the thought that we weren't going to go and hit rock bottom. It's basically we're going to stand and fight, and as long as we've got strength and we are together, we will carry on fighting for what we believe is right.
You know, for all this negative, you do seem very strong, positive people. You know, how can you look forward?
I think you've got to keep hope and faith. That's one thing you can never lose. We know deep down we will get there. It's just a case of you've got to believe it yourself.
Yeah, you've got a massive mountain to climb.
We'll get to the top of it.
Yeah, I really hope you do. It's a pleasure to meet you both, and I wish you all the well on your journey.
No, thank you very much.
It's been really nice meeting you.
Thank you. Jack and Zena's love for each other has given them the will to fight for what they believe in. Earlier in the year, I was in Berlin and met another young couple whose love has also blossomed through isolation. Only this time it's of their own choosing. They've just finished an epic 4-year round-the-world trip in a boat the size of a postage stamp. So this is the sort of boat that you slept in for 4 years. I mean, I have to say, when you told me you were going to be in a boat, I thought it'd be a tiny bit bigger. This is a very small space. I don't know if I could bear it. How did you just adapt?
Yeah, it's all a question of organizing. Of course, you can't put out anything and let it stay, and another thing out and let it stay. Then there's no more room anymore.
You have to be very, very tidy.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. But we love it, because you're every time very close together.
Cozy like 2 little moles.
Fast hinter uns, vor uns liegt Madagaskar. Ja, ich stehe jetzt hier oben auf dem Mast. Hier ist der Masttop. Nettie-Line.
It must be quite a test to be cooped up with the same person for years on end. But they say that the experience has almost fused them together into one.
No one's relationship is perfect. Did you ever have big arguments and you only had a few foot to kind of go off in a mood?
Yeah, it's not far to go on a boat.
No. How did you manage?
You have to talk each other, because if
communication.
you have to communicate, and if something wrong, you have to tell it.
Yeah. And then when you're on land, then you say, okay, you can do today this, and I do today this.
Oh, so you went your separate ways on land?
Sometimes.
Yeah, so you gave each other space?
Yeah, that's very important.
Incredibly, since returning from their epic journey, Annette and Sven have found it impossible to shake off the habit of living in each other's pockets. They've now moved into a flat that's so tiny there's not even room to swing a cat. And their bed, it's minute.
Wonderful to go now in bed.
What do you think the meaning of life is? Do you think it's love, togetherness? Do you think that's what life is about? You know that everybody is searching. I think, you know, I search for something and I think, oh, maybe if, you know, I found somebody to love, and that's going to make me feel whole. But then I read in books that you've got to feel a whole person yourself and not become one half of something. Do you think that's how you are?
Yeah, it's
Why are you asking him to? You can speak for yourself. Come on.
Okay, for example, when we drink juice or Coke, then we take a glass together.
A glass?
Just one together, or we
just one glass
spare one bed together, and so. And
weird.
that also we share the brain, and we share everything, and that is
wow.
It's fantastic because you feel you are one object or one person.
One person.
So, yeah, and
most people want their own space in a big bed. Like, give me room.
No, it's no problem for us.
We like still to be
I think you two
together.
are like brother and sisters, actually. Almost. Well, you realise you are lucky then to have this relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, how did you meet? I feel like Cilla Black.
Oh, you met me, huh? I think so. It was also in the
He chased you?
Yeah, I think so.
You fancied her?
Yeah. He asked me if I want to go with you in the to swimming, huh?
Your relationship has always been based on water.
Yeah,
everything.
Everything, yeah.
This is the kind of sailing I like, with an engine. This way. Oh no!
I'm not completely convinced that living on top of each other like that makes for a long-term relationship. But what do I know? It'll be interesting to see how they cope with the routine of day-to-day life on dry land.
Can you make it go a little bit faster? I have actually got a plane to catch. We're meant to be going there. Oh, shit. Sadly, we're nearly at the end of my walkabout, but I've been saving the best for last. Of all the people I've met this year, it was this 19-year-old New Yorker who made the biggest impression on me.
Five years ago, two major events happened to Michelle. Along with 15 million other teenagers around the world, she became pregnant. 7 months later, she gave birth to her daughter Diana, 2 months prematurely. Then only 4 weeks after that, as she was waiting to get into school one morning, her life was nearly blown away.
We were just standing there pretty much talking, and then there were some sparks on the ground, and there was a screech and a pop. Well, I knew that I had been hit with something. I thought initially that it may have been a firecracker, and then it was just like a revelation hit me. This warm feeling just started to come over my face, and I realized that I must have been bleeding. So I went to wipe my forehead, and my hands were just covered. And I went to look, and I couldn't see my hands, and everything was just black. So I held this gate, and I just was ready to just stoop down and just lay on the street and die. And I thought that it was sad that I was gonna die like a dog on the street.
So you were shot in the head. I can see a little scar there.
Right here.
You got a little
Actually,
tiny scar.
you can feel where the bone is missing.
Oh yeah. So that was all just taken away.
Well, the bullet went in,
Yeah.
and it severed the optic nerve.
Right. So you lost sight.
It ricocheted through my face.
Oh my God.
It had it fractured the inner ear, the jawbone.
Were you in agony?
Yes.
The fascinating thing, it's still there, isn't it? The bullet.
It's stuck in the phenoid sinus, which is about 2 centimeters away from the brain.
So if that was 2 centimeters one way or the other, you would have died.
Exactly. I mean, well, actually, the chances are that I could sneeze the wrong way, and there are only 2 directions it can go. It can either go down and it'll come out of my nose or down my throat. But if it goes in the opposite direction, which is up, then it'll kill me or leave me mentally retarded.
Oh my God.
So,
you know the guy that did it? Why did he do it?
actually, that is one thing that I tried not to think about as much because we don't know. Now, he did go to the school at the time.
Oh, right.
But we don't know exactly what he was doing there.
And how old was he?
He was 17 at the time. He was 17.
But what was he doing with a gun?
Your guess is as good as mine. Nowadays, it's easier for kids to get guns than it is for them to get new textbooks.
Obviously, the big issue in America is the gun law. I mean, what would you do? Would you try and pass that law and change it?
You have to look at the reasons why people are doing the things that they're doing. Like, I don't think that if you had well, not you, but you know, the average person, if they had $1 million, do you think that they would be robbing people? If the little things were taken care of, there wouldn't be big problems like gun control and things like that.
Michelle has now graduated from high school and is studying to become a forensic psychologist, as well as being a full-time teenage mum.
I've always wondered what makes people commit the crimes that they do.
Yeah.
And I think that's what also led me to the conclusion that these big problems that we have in America, like guns and drugs and things like that, that they stem from smaller things. And if the smaller things, just like Freud said, Freud.
Oh, right. Yeah, I read Freud.
And if their initial needs are not being met, then the big things, they're never going to develop normally. Like if you're teaching a child how to write or to read, but if they're hungry, all of that is like out the door because they don't care what you're trying to teach them. They don't care how important it is. They want to eat.
I don't know if you believe in fate, but I mean, you've had two remarkable things happen, you know, in a short space of time. First of all, Tiana was premature. And as you said, that she probably would have died if you were still pregnant of her when you were shot. And then secondly, that bullet is lodged in a place where it could almost have killed you. I mean, what do you think that was? Do you think fate or God?
That was God. Nobody but God.
It sounds like you had a faith in God before, but do you think this has restored it?
It was like, I had a religious background, had been going to church ever since. But there's a difference between religion and having a relationship with God. And at a point like that, religion does not help. You have to have that personal relationship. You have to kind of call on him and ask him.
How do you see God? What do you think God is?
God is my best friend.
I mean, what do you think it is? A man upstairs with a big white coat or a spirit?
I don't know. And to be honest, I don't think about those things, so I don't care. You know, like I really honestly, he could be a purple ball, whatever he is.
Yeah, that's right.
Like when people try to put God in a category, that's where they get lost because he's not going to fit and he's never going to meet their ideal.
Don't say he then.
Oh, well, just using he as a general term.
Michelle is fighting hard to make sense of her predicament. 5 years on from the shooting, she's blind in one eye and suffers from appalling headaches.
Sometimes you have to put the pieces of the puzzle that is life together yourself. And I think that God helps you put those pieces together and stay together. When things get bad, and they will, when you can't pay your bills, when your kids are just getting on your nerves, you know, when your boyfriend or your husband or your wife is just like stressing you out to the point where you really want to beat them up.
Yeah.
You know, when your job where you want to quit. I mean, I think everybody does.
Yeah,
and God is what kind of grounds you.
Yeah. Obviously, you've learned so much from your experience. I mean, how do you look into the future?
Well, actually, I mean, I kind of live life day by day, and I think that helps me be a little more effective because I don't try to help people in the long run. You know, I try to do what I can do for them right now, today. People look for these big things to make their life full of substance. Like some people feel like if they reach their career goal, or some people say that by the time I turn 30, you know, if I have my own practice and I have 2.5 kids, then I'm gonna be perfect. But
Oh dear! It's all coming in, crashing in on me.
But you can be perfect today, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like, why wait to make my life worth something? I can make my life worth something
Okay, I'm
now.
going to take a leaf out your book and try and take some of your medicine. I give out loads of medicine like that, but sometimes it's hard to take your own pill. Do you know what I mean? You're always looking at, if only tomorrow if I had this, or I don't know.
Exactly.
But it's so lovely to meet you. Give me a cuddle. Thank you. It's really nice to meet you. Very inspiring young lady. And she's fantastic too. Can I have a cuddle?
I thought Michelle was wonderful. She treats each day as a gift, knowing that possibly it might be her last. She was a real inspiration, so wise and philosophical, and she's only 19.
So you know, from that interview, I've learned a lot, even from her and about myself, really. I hope you have too.
Treat me kind, keep me safe, show me love, I'll embrace. If you take me home, where I was born, I'll find peace of mind somehow.
This has been quite a journey for me. I've jammed with the priest, danced in the slum, marched with the army and sat on top of a rubbish tip. Along the way I've heard some incredible stories of really tough choices with inspiring results. But what's my lasting impression? I think it's real respect for the human spirit. The young people I've met don't feel bitter if things go wrong. In fact, it's the reverse. Adversity seems to make them stronger. They're all trying to give something back. Whatever happens to us, we seem to keep on trying, which fills me with hope and optimism for our future. But I'll tell you another lesson I've learned, and it sounds a bit corny, but it's absolutely true. There's no place like home. Is there, Harry?
Give me love, show me grace, give me time and a little space. If you take me back where I belong, I'll find peace of mind somehow.
You've got a mission on your hands.
Yes.
My goodness.
God bless you.
Thank you.
I'm studying German now.
Are you?
Yeah.
Ich kann sprechen ein bisschen Deutsch. Wie komme ich ein bisschen zum Marktplatz, bitte? There you go, tell him that.
He's asking if you could give him an autograph.
Oh, I'd be delighted to. Can I have your autograph? Really nice to meet you. Very inspiring young lady.